Ladies and gentlemen, Monty Hook here, and I am back with another edition of Lockdown Level Up. I'm here locked up in Bali in my room, got a surfboard over here that I can't ride, and on the other end of the line I've got Richard Bell, who I assume is in Sydney. I reached out to Richard this week because I wanted to really connect with some business leaders who are really authorities in being able to have some very tactical and strategic conversations regarding what is happening in business right now. And Rich is a very well-known authority. He's been interviewed all this week by different media publications, etc., which I'll get you to touch on in a second, Rich. But I've known Rich for several years. He was the general manager of the Entourage, and he is now he's on the board of many, many companies. He's one of the co-founders of FitStop and definitely an authority in business. One of the things that I've noticed about Rich is that he is very good in big picture of business and understanding all levels from high level down to the micro detail and understanding organizational structures, etc. So Rich is definitely somebody who can help people out in this time in terms of knowing where their focus should be, what should they be focused on, where should their efforts be invested right now, because there's a lot of bleeding happening right now. And the other thing I also want to really touch on, Rich, is try to understand some stories about what's happening for people in business and what's happening in your business as well, because I think it's very, very good for, there's a lot of people like myself who are, kind of down and out a little bit and feeling the pressure and feeling the pinch and actually quite scared of what could happen on the other side of this. So it's actually really good to get insights from especially from business leaders, into what's happening in their world as well, just to let us know that we're all human and we're all dealing with the same thing. So Rich, thanks very much. First of all, just give us a very quick snapshot into your background and your expertise and who you work with.
Yeah, of course. First of all, hey, Mont, thanks for having me on. I think, this is an unprecedented time for all business leaders, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation today with you, and hopefully trying to give your audience and some of the people over there, on the other side of the world, whether it's in Bali or the Philippines or even Australia, I guess some level of insight and some level of comfort into what is happening, and really happy to get into some personal kind of detail of how I've been dealing with the situation as well. For me, so I'm the founder and managing director of a business advisory and investment firm called Business Leaders Group. So Business Leaders Group is the head firm at the top. Under Business Leaders Group, we've got large shareholdings and director positions in those companies. So we either started those companies, invested in those companies, or backed those companies. Some examples of that, we're the third largest shareholder in a company called the Entourage, which is Australia's largest educator of entrepreneurs. I'm the co-founder of FitStop. FitStop is a health and fitness chain that we founded back in January 2017. We took that from one franchise to 80 franchises all around the country in the last 3 years. I've got a couple of tech startups as well. One of them is an on-demand massage app, which is almost like the Uber for massage. So people can, they can request a massage. Therapists come to their house within 30 minutes. They rock up, get their massage, charges their credit card, and then they leave. So I took over a controlling stake and a large shareholding in that business. The other side of our business is obviously the advisory side. So I run boardroom sessions in Sydney. I help other businesses, raise capital, or I inject capital into their business. I chair the board for a company called AJ Hackett, which is a global tourism company. I'm going to talk about that as well. A global tourism and adventure tourist company. So they're in 6 countries around the world. They're in Macau, Singapore, Indonesia, Russia, France, and also Australia. Their business has declined by 80% overnight. I chair the board for the National Business Review, which is basically New Zealand's version of the Australian Financial Review. They're a media and a news publication. So we've actually helped take them from a newspaper to a digital subscription business. I also chair the board for a company called Little Zach's Childcare in the Early Education Learning Centre. So I'm a super busy person. I've been doing this for the last 10 or 11 years in terms of my career, and it's kind of all I've known. So where I am today, I guess is I've got a little bit of hopefully some authority to be able to talk through what it's like to be that early stage business owner who lives in his car and has no money and starts from nothing, all the way through to being the CEO of a high growth company. Where you're going from 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 up to 100 staff really quickly. Business Leaders Group over the last 6 years has raised over $10 million in capital and debt for its clients, through to running mentoring groups with early stage entrepreneurs. So, I guess I've built a career and a business around that. And the reason I guess talk to some of those stories and talk about some of those clients and businesses is, I guess, just to give a little bit of credibility there in the most humble way possible, that I'm not a business coach or anything like that. I'm a business person who has built companies, started companies, grown companies, sold companies, who's been through incredibly stressful times and also some great times. So I guess I hopefully some of the stuff that I can share with you today is real world experience from stuff that I'm going through right now. So first of all, just straight off the bat, I will tell you that some of my companies, if I look at Fitstop as an example, within a 12-hour period, we lost 100% of our revenue with the announcement of gyms closing. And let me tell you, as a co-founder and director of that business, that hurt. That nearly brought me to tears. It was, to lose all of your hard work and your revenue and all of your franchises as well instantly overnight was catastrophic. Now, that's not saying that that we won't be okay, and we won't find a way through. But the speed in which this has happened, in February, I was sitting over in Indonesia in a board meeting for the AJ Hackett Group. As I said, they're in 6 countries around the world, employ more than 500 staff. I was sitting in a board meeting and we're talking about, this being over in a couple of weeks, and as I sit here today, 7 weeks later, 3 of their sites around the world are no longer trading, which is 25 to 30 million USD in revenue, overnight stopped. Right. So, it's,
and even those ones that are trading, well, they don't have much trade, right?
Yeah, of course, right. And even for me, with my head investment firm, Business Leaders Group, makes its money in 3 ways. It makes its money through asset growth, through dividends and profits from the companies that we own, and then from through fees from boards that we chair and companies that we help. I can sit here today and honestly tell you that we have lost 80% of our revenue. I'm in a world of pain.
Yeah. So what's really interesting about it, thanks for sharing. What's really interesting about that is because you are involved in so many different businesses in different fields and different verticals, you're probably got some very interesting perspective and different conversations with different industries about how people are being affected. As you mentioned with Fitstop, gyms being closed overnight, and we can come back to that and how you guys are kind of pivoting, quite immediately. But what is the sentiment? Is it? Can you kind of package up a generalization amongst all of it, or is it very different sentiment in all these businesses?
Yeah, do you know what, Monty? It's very similar to what I say about any businesses, right? Like businesses are pretty much all the same, other than the industry and the product. Every business has sales, marketing, finance, cash flows, leadership, business plans. They're all the same except for the industry they play in and the product or service that they deliver. So they absolutely, there is similarities. And the sentiment that I can tell you globally, there's a couple of things that I can pick out. The first thing that I can pick out is we're in this for 6 months, full stop. So prepare yourself for an acute revenue loss, for an acute downturn, for an acute loss of staff, that is what I can tell you. The dip and the curve is so steep, like nothing we've ever seen before. And that is across public companies, that is across small business, that is across entrepreneurial businesses, private companies. It's like that. It's not going, oh, we're in a bit of a GFC and it's a bit of a downturn. It's like, no, business, no business. You know, and that's from clients to customers, etc. So that's the first thing. It's an acute 6-month thing. But I'll give you the flip side of that. What that means is, if you can weather this storm. Now, I don't mean weather the storm by completely changing your business model and forgetting what you do and who you are. I mean, if you can get through this period, whether that is by leaning on friends and family, by looking for the government grants, by pivoting your business model a little bit, by decreasing your costs, if you can get through this period, what I can guarantee you, I don't use that word lightly, but what I can guarantee you is there will be a day when this is over. And when that day comes, whether that is in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, the timing, I don't know. But what I do know is we need to make sure as business owners and business leaders that we still have a business, that we still have a livelihood, that we still have something here at the end of it. Because people, after they've been locked up for 6 months, they've been stopped doing the things they like to do. They've not been able to travel. They're not been able to exercise. They can't do business. They can't surf. They can't do all the stuff they want to do. I guarantee you that in 6 to 12 months' time when we come out of this, restaurants will be full. Gym memberships will be flying. People will want to be, making movies about this. People want to be buying stocks, buying houses, traveling all over the world. Because I think, and without getting too philosophical, I think that the world actually needed this. The world needed to humble a little bit. The world needed to be more connected. The world needed to... the world needed to appreciate maybe what they had a little bit. We're all so hungry, trying to tread on everyone and do what we're trying to do and get ahead in life. Maybe it was time for the world to realize that everyone's equal. We all eat, we all sleep, doesn't matter what religion, denomination, race, sex. The world needed to realize that we're all human beings. And this virus that is going on right now and what's happening in the business world, it doesn't matter how much money you've got, how big your business is, it's impacting us all the same. So just to kind of, I guess, give a sentiment, 6 months, it'll be sharp, but it will recover. And I think we will recover a better world because of it. So that's
So, very cool. What are some of the practical things that maybe you could give some insights into what are you guys doing what are you doing in your business? Like, obviously there's some emergency conversations happening, and what is the first things people, business owners, entrepreneurs, CEOs, everybody, what should they be looking at right now as the immediate things?
Right now, they should be looking at how can we reduce expenses quickly. They should be looking at their P&L and going, what are the non-essential things I need to keep my business alive? If that means laying off staff, if that means getting rid of contractors, if that means, stopping, non-essential services, that's absolutely what you have to do. If your revenue drops by 80%, your costs have to drop by 80%. Because even if you've got money in the bank to be able to actually sustain that burn rate, you need money in the bank to be able to fuel your growth, right? So in the sort of business owners that I've been talking with, and I can just speak for Australia, it's like, save your business because the government are going to be able to help the staff out that you may have to lay off. And then at the end of the day, in 6 months, when things, or 12 months or whenever that is, when things come good again, you can actually re-engage those people, This is a 6-month spike. So practically go through your P&L and cut every single cost that you do not need to stay afloat as a company. The second thing you're looking at is how can we generate revenue with the current assets or the current services that we offer? How can we pivot? How can we look at transitioning, as an example, in the gym world? How can we transition, 50 businesses that are 50 businesses that have people going into them every day and moving that platform online? Can you look to play with your product offering and your price points? That's what we've been looking at. How much do we charge? Can we charge less? Number 4 that I'd probably say is, all directors, CEOs, business owners, no wages. I will not be taking any dividends, profits, wages, directors' fees out of any one of my companies at least for 6 months, right? So your business has to come first. And then number 5 tip for entrepreneurs and business owners is reduce your personal expenses significantly. Right? If you've got a car that you don't need, sell it. If you've got fancy stuff that you don't need, sell it. You've got to drive your personal expenditure down. Don't, get takeaway, buy fresh food, don't do anything. Just stay home and bunker down and weather the storm.
Yeah. So what are some practical things that you guys are doing? So I saw some things online about FitStop and how you guys are pivoting there. Tell me how that came about. Like, I'm interested in what is the pivot and what are you guys doing actually in the business, but also how did you guys come to that decision? Like, what was the process you guys went through?
Yeah, good question. So first of all, it's, we've had a board meeting every 48 hours for the last 10 days. So we've been in 5 board meetings that have probably gone for between 4 and 6 hours each. That's the first thing. There hasn't been a lot of sleep going on, but that is a part of what you have to do. We go through a process, first of all, and we go, how can we continue to provide support? How can we continue to deliver our customers what our brand promise is? So our brand promise is to fight for fitter and healthier humans. And if we need to be fighting for fitter and healthier humans, how can we deliver that? Forget how we deliver it, but how can we still provide that brand promise to somebody just because they can't come into a gym? So we go, okay, emergency board meeting. What is our brand promise? How can we make sure we still deliver value to our customers and our community? Even if we don't charge for it right now or charge full price for it, how can we keep our customers and our community engaged so that when the market does rebound, they're actually there for us, right? So then we go, okay, once we've worked out a process on how we actually can keep them engaged and it's sustainable, we then go, what are the minimum resources we're required to deliver that product or service? That will determine how much we obviously are going to charge for that. And then we'll also look at how quickly will it take us to pivot back to our original business model when this clears up, because you don't want to be building all of this crazy infrastructure that you can't unwind.
So you touched on something really, really important there, I think, and that is delivering on the brand promise. And I think this is, whilst this is a devastating time, this is a really, really brilliant opportunity for businesses to build relationships because it's a different kind of attention now, right? People really have the opportunity to reach out with every one of their customers, every one of their clients, because everybody is in this together. Right, there is this different kind of relationship where your customers, your clients will want to support you if they feel like you are supporting them, right? So that approach I really feel like that is something that businesses should really be focused on right now, is just building on those relationships, not just trying to save them, but building on them now.
Absolutely, Mon. And that was something that I was going to touch on towards the end of our conversation, which was like, what do I see as some opportunities that are out there now, or what do I think is critical for businesses to be doing? The first thing I'm going to say there is like, this is the optimum time for you to be able to develop customer loyalty and brand loyalty, right? You should be saying to your customers, hey, this is not about money. I've got your back. I'm here for you. I'm delivering what I promised that I would deliver. To give you an example of how I'm practically doing that in Business Leaders Group, I run a boardroom session, and on a monthly basis with a bunch of different business leaders. From that boardroom session, I'll make $10,000 or $15,000, right, for delivering that day. I said to all of my Leaders Club members, I said, guys, you know what, I know what you're going through. We are in this together. We're going to deliver this online for the next 3 months, and the fee is on me. Okay, I didn't do this to make money. I got into business because I enjoy working with business people and I need to see them thrive. And right now, I need to be a leader and demonstrate that I'm loyal to them and I've got their back, and they don't need to pay me a cent. I'm still going to sit with them and work through their business, strategy, growth, and how they can get through this time for free. Why? Because I give a shit, and that is the reason why I do what I do. It's never been about the money. That is a byproduct. So if you put your customers first, if you put your community first, and not just talk about it, actually go, by the way, you know what? I'm not actually going to charge you for 3 months, and I'm still going to deliver you service. The customer loyalty and the brand loyalty you will get from doing that will be like you've never been able to build before in your business.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think it's a very good way for people to think about pivoting. So when this conversation around innovation and pivoting kind of comes up, it's like, well, where do I start? And that should be the lever. That should be the lever, and that is how do we build on these relationships? And then when you're coming from that, then tweaking the service, tweaking the pricing, delayed payments, whatever that is. But what's really critical in this conversation is that businesses need to be doing their contingency plans and their numbers to know to know what that looks like. So if they are going to cut costs, if they're going to have delayed payments, to know what that looks like financially, so that they're not just doing it, they're not just winging it. They're doing it knowing that it's going to pay off in the end, and how long can we continue doing this? And people need to know their worst case scenarios. And that's the very first thing that I did. When I got this sense 2 weeks ago that, oh, shit is hitting the fan and things could get real ugly and this could go on for a long time, I needed to look at all scenarios, including what does it look like if I have to close down my business, right? What does that actually look like? Because I don't want to be in a situation where, and this is hard because a lot of people rely on me for jobs. I've got management teams, I've got hundreds of people with jobs and families in the Philippines, but it would be irresponsible of me to be only thinking of, all right, well, I've got to keep everybody in a job and not think about the business, because that's going to end up in much messier.
Of course, and that's, from a pure, really detailed, practical perspective, 80% of my meetings have been going through a cash flow forecast, looking at cash in, cash out, closing balance, how long we can sustain this through. And in all companies I'm involved with, we've got a minimum of 3 scenarios, and they haven't been good case. They've been like best worst case, medium worst case, worst case. And worst case, as an example in Fitstop, was, hey, what if we're closed for 6 months? Like, shut. And the funny thing is that's actually happened. So absolutely, from a numbers perspective, don't just go start giving out gifts and being silly with it. You actually need to look at your cash flow forecast week by week, day by day, look at your receivables, your creditors, push out the payment plans, and actually manage your cash flow to be able to sustain what you're going to do.
Yeah. Very cool. So what are some other things that businesses should be thinking of right now to not just ride this out, but to thrive on the other side of this?
Yeah, mate, great question. I've been thinking about that a lot. There's a couple of really clear things. The first thing is this is an opportunity for you to challenge your business model, to try and make your business model more remote, more profitable, using outsourcing services, looking at different ways to do things. A lot of businesses do things because it's the way they've always done them. They're not challenging the business model on a regular basis. So big opportunity to challenge your business model, your profitability of products and services, and how you run your business. The second opportunity here is marketing and media to buy is 40 to 50% cheaper right now than it has ever been. To give you an example of that, a billboard in the Sydney CBD, normally $18,000 a month. I can get one for $2,000 for the next 6 months, right? Online media and marketing buying per click is 60% cheaper than it has ever been. Not to mention that people are stuck at home, they're bored, and they're consuming more content than they've ever consumed. So right now, I've got 4 cameras set up around me and a full film crew following me this week to go through some of this stuff so that I can push this content out and give value to my audience. So as I said, that getting content out to your audience and buying media and marketing at cost price, at distress rates, is another huge opportunity. The third opportunity that I see is systemize your business. Take this time to do the things that you wouldn't do when you're really busy. Take this time to write your operations manuals, get those videos shot that you need to get shot, work on your administration, get your financial, things up to date, start working on your strategy, all the stuff that, when I'm sitting on boards or advising companies, they tell me they don't have time to do. Now you've actually got the time to be able to do that.
Yeah. So, couple of interesting points I want to just reiterate there. So one is the creating content, right? So exactly what you're doing there. You've got a film crew around you. You're taking this as an opportunity to move forward and keep your head in the game. And I'm doing much the same. I don't have the professional setup you have. I'm locked up in the house. But now is a really, really good time because I think we don't need the high levels of production, right? So it is a time when we have the opportunity to authentically connect with people.
Yeah.
There's a different kind of engagement, and now has never been better. If you're locked up at home, you now have the time and space to do this, to map this out and start creating content. And it doesn't have to be refined. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, this is
absolutely not. And even like we've known each other for a lot of years, and a lot of our conversations are normally quite commercial, but even our connection here on this call is probably the best it's ever been, because there's humility, there's compassion. We're going through this together, and this is a live opportunity for other people to be able to connect with business leaders. It's like, it's no bullshit. It's vulnerable. It's real. It's what's happening.
Yeah. And let me come back to the other point. You mentioned outsourcing there. And I've been having some really interesting conversations lately, because this is a very interesting time for my business, because obviously our business is outsourcing, but there's kind of two stages to this. And one is there is a massive opportunity, right? Because I'm having conversations with businesses that are now forced to look at their circumstances, how they've been run before. I spoke with an engineering company the other day, and they had been thinking about the conversation about outsourcing for many years. They have 50 staff in Brisbane across 2 offices, and now they're forced to have the conversation. And when I had the conversation with them about what is possible on a skills level, etc., it's like, we should have been doing this years ago. Yes. If they had have done that, they may have been in a actually a better position now, because they may have been more profitable. They may have had more money in the bank. So this kind of raises this question, right? Some of the conversations that are happening is some people are going to have to be let go, right? And that might be lower level staff, high level managers, partners, whatever that looks like. Where should businesses, is there a good place to be looking? Like, is it in the management? Is it in the lower level staff? Is there a good answer to that?
There's probably not a good generalist answer. But as an example, if I talk about some of my companies, it's like, if you're moving online for 6 months, there's probably 2 people you need in your team, or 2 groups of people that can drive e-commerce and content, and the other people that can lead and manage the situation that's going on, right? Like, in terms of finance, admin, operations, they're not necessities. So my advice is like, whatever the minimum viable things you need in your business by way of resource, that's all you need. And that might be 1 or 2 people in marketing. It might be 1 person in e-commerce, or it might be, 1 person as the CEO. But absolutely, you shouldn't be keeping managers or middle managers or people like that who are not going to be there to deliver the product and service right away. Now, I'm not saying you lay them off forever. It might be a short-term thing, but if you want to have your business at the end of this, you've got to make the tough calls, and you've got to make them quickly.
Yeah. And
hey, Mon, just quickly.
Another point there is that if
we've got about 5 minutes left.
Yeah. Cool, mate. Cool. So yeah, just to touch on that also, if businesses are really, really hemorrhaging and they need to look at ways of cutting costs. So on that team aspect and the conversation around outsourcing, the thing I'm always telling people is, if you have your systems and your key people in Australia or wherever that is in head office, say, even though they're working remotely, whatever can be delivered underneath them remotely, then now is the time to look at that. That is the place to look at look at outsourcing. So
100%. And you know, I'm absolutely, you know, outsourcing or co-sourcing, whichever one you're kind of doing, right? I'm absolutely supportive of that. I'm not talking about taking jobs away from Australia. I'm talking about, you know, getting support with people's job roles and looking at how they can do things better and more refined and cut costs from a business owner's perspective. So outsourcing and co-sourcing right now is absolutely critical for business owners to be doing, and they should be doing it now, not in 6 months.
Yeah. So, Rich, I know you're short on time, and this has been really, really very, very practical information here. So, one last question for you, mate. How are you dealing with this personally, like you and your family? You know, one of the things I've noticed here in all of this is I think this is really going to highlight and amplify people's habits and their disciplines, right? If you're somebody like me and you who are very habit-driven, very good disciplines. I think for people like us, you know, we're going to be working out at home, looking after our health and doing that. And for other people who are kind of like already couch potatoes, they're just going to become more, you know, they're just probably just going to get worse, right? So for you, how are you and your family, you know, dealing with all of this? And are you know, is there any kind of practical advice you give to people who are stuck at home? They've got to run their businesses, they've got to run their lives.
Look, the first thing is try and stay in your routine as much as you can. I mean, for me, I don't drink alcohol. You know, I don't drink alcohol. I don't do drugs. I don't do anything like that. So for me, you know, and I haven't done for quite some time now. So for me, you know, it's sticking to that discipline of having a routine, feeding your body with good, nutritious food, you know, making sure, you know, you're getting your greens in, your vitamins, all that kind of stuff. And not sitting on the couch and, you know, getting on the booze and having 20 beers a night and, you know, I guess wallowing in your sorrows. That is not going to help anyone, right? So, you know, from a health and lifestyle perspective, stay healthy, stay exercising. I mean, you know, as I said, I'm continuing to train 4 or 5 times a week, home workouts. We've got a Fit Stop at home for anybody who wants that little plug there. Jump onto Fit Stop Australia and you can get access to Fit Stop at home. So I'll be doing things like that, staying healthy. My wife will be doing the same. You know, we'll be going out for walks of a day if we can with the kids, you know, taking them for swimming lessons in the pool at home, and keeping a solid calendar. You know, I'm not taking this as a holiday. I'm still working. I'm on 5-6 days a week. Just means I'm behind a laptop or I'm thinking as opposed to being in the office or flying around. But, you know, to show, I guess, a bit of realness as well, Mont. Like it's hard, mate. You know, like I've got 3 kids, and you know, 3 kids under the age of 7, and you know, you know, a lot of different moving parts in terms of, you know, properties and businesses and finance and debts and all that kind of stuff, right? It's yeah, I'm at the beginning. I'm 30 years old, so you know, there's nights where I'm upset. There is, you know, there's nights where I struggle. There absolutely is, and there's days where, you know, I can't believe what's happening, and you know, I've got a lot of empathy for people that are in that situation, and you know, and yeah, it fucking sucks, man.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Hey, what?
Yeah, it's been...
I need to choose how I. Most of the time, you can be vulnerable and all that kind of stuff, but at some point, I've got to pick myself up and try and remain strong. You know, for my wife, kids, for the people around me, and for the businesses.
Yeah, and for, you know, showing up for the community and being a business. And for that, I want to acknowledge you, mate. You know, what I've seen you doing, and just through this conversation, you are really standing up for, you know, for the businesses you're involved in. This would be a very easy time for people to bury their head in the sand, and you know, it's awesome to see that you're standing up to the community, all the businesses around you, and giving really practical advice to, you know, help people out. So I acknowledge it, and I really appreciate your time in this conversation. This is very, very practical, good information, and hopefully on the other side of this, we'll you know, we'll have a laugh, and we'll all be killing it. But
yeah.
Mate, how can people find you? Is there a place I can send people to? You're talking about this content that you're doing right now. I'll include links in, you know, wherever I post stuff. So yeah, where can people find you?
Yeah, first of all, mate, thank you. Massive appreciation and respect for your time as well. Thank you very much. And hopefully people get some sort of value out of this. For me, it's at Rich_Bell_business leader, or they can jump on to business_leaders_group, which is our Instagram page, or find us at www.businessleaders.com, and leaders is with a Z, or they can send me a personal email if they need any advice. It's Rich, RICH, @businessleaders.com. I'm more than happy to help anyone who needs help in this time. So,
Yeah.
mate, I wish you all the best over there, and thanks again for your time, mate.
Yeah, thanks very much, Rich. I'll make sure everybody has your details and connect with you.
Cool.
Stay safe.